What's up, guys, and welcome back to Beyond the Void Horror Podcast. My name is Alex.
I'm Christina.
And we're going to be talking about episode 4 of Lovecraft Country called A History of Violence.
Ooh.
Let's do that now, guys. All right, now just a heads up to you guys, of course, this is a spoiler discussion, so we're going to be spoiling things, and that is the intention of this whole series that we're doing for each episode of Lovecraft Country. First off, let's start off with our initial thoughts. So what did you think of this episode compared to the other ones?
I like this episode. I thought it was better balanced.
Right.
And there was more action, but this is like the Indiana Jones Goonies episode totally.
And I think it's intentionally done. I've heard some people argue about it being a little derivative of other movies and stuff that we've done. But yeah, it's all callbacks.
Oh, yeah.
It's all callbacks. And
not a bad thing.
Somebody explained it as pretty much people of color, black people, have been cut out of movies that are some of our favorite things. You know what I mean?
Especially those leading roles are just the whole premise around what's happening, yeah.
Right. So, these callbacks are intentionally done in the book as well as in the show.
And it's cool, too, because we just watched The Last Crusade.
Right.
So that it was really cool because we just
caught
things because they were in a museum and
right.
The bridge thing. So
sure. Yeah. A lot of that is apparently intentionally done, and I think some people are having issue with that because maybe they don't know. You always get into that kind of issue, I think, when it comes to the book versus the show and what was the intention of the book. Everything is to kind of subvert everything from Lovecraft being somewhat of a racist, which whether you agree with me or not, he was at one point racist. His wife was Jewish, and she would be like, why are we walking in the middle of the street to avoid Jewish people? And he's like, because they're just different. And she'd be like, well, why? I'm Jewish.
But that's the whole point. Why Lovecraft Country? He wrote Lovecraft Country was to
it's to subvert it. It's to subvert all of that stuff. Yeah. I just want to kind of explain that what this show is about, and I think that's really important in this particular episode.
What was your thoughts on this episode then?
I liked it, but I feel like the show is kind of all over the place. Mm-hmm. And it is getting, while I like it and I want to see where it ends up, this episode did not make me go, oh my God, I wasn't that into it. There is still stuff in it that makes me appreciate it more. But this episode is probably, and some people are saying it's their favorite episode, but
I can see that.
Not me.
Because this wasn't as much of an info dump, and each episode's different.
My episode order is probably 1, 3, 2, and this one.
Really?
Yeah, so far.
Wow.
And it's just because it's just my particular taste.
Right.
To me, and I've never been a huge Buffy fan, and the TV show. I liked the movie, but I didn't like the TV show. It was too bubblegum. And I'm starting to kind of feel like this is a little bubblegum, even though it does have its dark moments and it has gore and it has some real depth to some of the things that they're doing. It just kind of them going through the catacombs and stuff is just kind of weird to me.
Oh, see, I didn't think so.
I don't
know what bubblegum. That's weird because I think the characters individually, there's so many characters, but the main characters, they're just such strong characters. Sure. That it really just.
I have nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying the overall tone feels different to me. But right off the bat, we get the name of the episode, which is A History of Violence, which, of course, is also the name of a movie that David Cronenberg directed about a man who has a history of violence where he's trying to escape it, and it follows him. His past follows him. And
is that what it was a nod to? The title?
I don't know that it was necessarily a nod to it, but that's the first thing I think of. And some people are making that comparison to that too, and which would make sense because if you type in A History of Violence, the only thing that comes up is David Cronenberg's movie.
Have you seen that movie?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not one of my favorite movies of his. It's not a bad movie. It's just it's his past coming back to haunt him no matter how far he runs.
Oh, okay.
And I think that's kind of prevalent here. Not just maybe the violence against people of color and like what they're embroiled in and what they've experienced, especially for these characters and the history of America and that violence that's in there that carries with people of color through to the future.
Or could it refer to Montrose?
Well, I think it also
started off, when it starts off.
Probably. I mean, there's probably, it's like multifaceted, you know what I mean? Right. But it also could be about the Braithwaites too, because their history of violence with Yahim and, all of this shit where they've like used people. Like not only did they use people of color, black people, but they're also using Native Americans. It's like
from other dimensions.
Yeah, exactly. Like about pain and suffering and carrying it to the future, which Montrose is a big part of that.
Right.
Because in the beginning, he's losing his fucking mind.
Right.
He's like reading the bylaws of the Order of the Ancient Dawn. He's burns it with whiskey and then says, smells like Tulsa.
Tulsa burned.
Which I found out a lot of history on. The history of that in 1921 was the event of the Tulsa Massacre, which they've, touched upon in the second episode when George has that vision of the other woman. That Montrose's girlfriend. Wife, is that what it was?
Yeah.
But they also called this Tulsa Race Riot, the Greenwood Massacre, the Black Wall Street Massacre. It's been called the single worst incident of racial violence in American history.
It was horrible.
Basically, the attack carried out on the ground and from a private aircraft destroyed more than 35 square blocks of the district. At the time, this was one of the wealthiest black communities in the United States. And it was known as Black Wall Street. But more than 800 people were admitted to hospitals, and as many as 6,000 black residents were interned into large facilities, and many of them for several days. So there's some statistics out about how many people died, and it's really conflicting, as is American history. Because we get told one thing, and then people want to change it to another thing. But they're saying that there was like 36 dead, 26, then it came out in 2001 that 26 black people had died and 10 white people had died on the autopsy reports. But then other certificates and records, and the commission gave overall estimates of 75 to 100 and then 150 to 300.
Well, the whole town was destroyed.
Right. Well, and that's the point.
To the ground.
But
I'm just that's messed up. 100 years in January, it'll be 100 years since that happened, and that wasn't that long ago.
And this happened on Memorial Day, and the reason why it happened, just for history's sake, there was a 19-year-old who was named Dick Rowland. He was a shoe shiner, and he was accused of assaulting a woman named Sarah Page, who was an elevator operator at the time. She was 17, and she worked in the Drexel building, and he was taken into custody, and after the arrest, they had a lot of rumors spread through the city that he was going to be lynched. So about 75 black men, some of whom were armed, went outside of the jail to make sure that he wasn't going to get lynched. The sheriff, of course, persuaded the group to back off, and as they were backing off, complying, a member of the mob of white men attempted to disarm one of the black men. A shot was fired. And then, according to the reports, all hell broke loose. And at the end of the firefight, 12 people were killed, 10 white, 2 black. As the news of the deaths spread throughout the city, mob violence exploded. This is from another report, by the way, because as we know, there's 36 that died.
Right.
They were burning and looting stores and homes, and only around the next day did Oklahoma National Guard troops impose martial law. There was about 10,000 black people who were left homeless, and property damage amounted to about $1.5 million. But we even saw this in the Watchmen episode.
Yeah.
They were talking about the Tulsa...
Well, no, they weren't talking about...
They showed it.
The whole show is based in Tulsa, like an alternate universe about that event.
Yeah. So it's just interesting that we're seeing that. It's almost kind of conflicting because it's like mentally we're watching two different shows that are coexisting in the same space.
Right. But it's great they're talking about that too, because like I had no idea until like a couple years ago that even happened.
I knew about that, but I didn't know the specifics about it. You know what I mean? So
there's a great documentary on YouTube about it too, if you want to look it up.
But there is we have Christina who comes to Letty's house, but can't enter because of the blood marks on the side of the thing that the medium came and put the goat blood on the walls and stuff. So you know that she's limited in her power, and she has some sort of spell that it can't make her go through. So
that was cool. That was like, oh shit. Like when she hit, like, when you're walking and there's a sliding glass door, you don't realize it, and you like that. Smack yourself. That's what it was like.
And that's where we learn that she wants to get the mechanical planetary solar system
that was
thing.
In the last episode, yes. And so Hippolyta took it.
I say Hippolyta, but I think it's Hypolita.
Sorry.
Hypolita. I don't know. Please don't, crucify me for this.
We're trying.
There's a lot of information. I don't know all of this stuff, and it's not something I grew up with necessarily either.
I fuck up everybody's names, even in real life.
But she talks about that planetary system, and then it flashes, of course, to Hippolyta, who is looking at the system, and some other guy's like, I'm going to take a look at it. And he looks at it, he's like, well, looks like it needs a key, and you might be able to solve that mystery or something like that. And she smiles.
And that's going to come into play.
Of course.
Further down the line, because they made a huge deal about this thing.
All of these things are connected. That planetary or solar system mechanical thing, the pages from the Book of Names that they're trying to get, the lost pages from Hiram, who stole them in the house that they're in. Mm-hmm. And these pages could be like spells for either side. So either Christina or Tick in the gang.
Yeah, they just want them because they want to protect themselves against these assholes.
100%.
Because Christina and all those people, they're all about themselves. Like, they all want it for themselves, and they don't care about who they hurt in the way.
It's a race to see who can get those pages to basically prevent whatever to happen. And that's when Tick goes to the library and gets all these books on all this history of the Order of the Ancient Dawn and stuff. And he starts noticing a theme here, which is that Montrose has checked out all of these books. Mm-hmm. And then Letty comes and talks to him there at the place and keeps getting interrupted by this little kid. Who's like, shh. Do you know what book he was reading?
Journey to the Center of the Earth.
Correct. Mm-hmm. And that is a foreshadow to when they go down into the tomb. Mm-hmm. And then he looks up when he goes down through the hole, and it says the thing about the water and the earth and like it rising or something like that.
Now, that library was actually based on an actual segregated library in Chicago.
Maybe, yeah. I didn't look that part up. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's pictures about like they modeled that whole library.
Right.
Because it's so weird to think like.
Right.
They even had to segregate their libraries.
Well, there was water fountains, bathrooms, and everything was on the shit end for them, which is kind of fucked up. But it was like, hey, we're being inclusive, guys.
At least they could have a library.
Yeah, exactly. But, we realize that Montrose knows a lot more than he's expressing and many times throughout this. This is Montrose's episode, essentially.
Yeah, I think so, too.
This is his story arc and us getting to know him a little bit better for better or worse, because he's we don't know much about him.
Yeah, we don't know what he knows, and he keeps trying to push Tick and them away, like he doesn't want them involved at all.
Right. Well, he burned the book.
Yeah.
Because he didn't want them to find it for whatever reason.
Yeah. There is a reason.
There's probably it's got to be more than something than just protect Tick. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I think that there is something in there that is more world ending. Mm-hmm. Like it could go either way, kind of thing. So he's just like, fuck it. This makes him, Montrose, more important now because he's memorized the entire book and knows it all. And so Christina needs him in order to fucking do whatever it is that her plans are and can't kill him. So he's got his chip in the game as well. Christina's outside. They show her because she can't go in the house, but she's hanging outside, I guess. And she's playing hide and seek with a lot of the kids. And then the cops come up and she walks up with them and she runs into Captain Lancaster, who I believe is the same guy who was in the back of the truck who talked to Letty with that really ignorant shit.
Yeah, because he really wanted to know who let her get the house.
Right.
So obviously he's in with
the society or whatever.
Society that Christina's in.
Yeah, Sons of Adam.
Ooh, so yeah, they were talking about and he was very misogynistic and he doesn't want a woman.
Oh, he's everything.
Yeah.
He's racist as fuck.
Yeah.
He tells her that she's like, there's no cunts allowed. Even if you know where the pages are. And there's something about her because she smiles when he does that. And that, of course, is her power. She's trying to. But there's people that are talking about that Christina and William are the exact same person.
She's a shapeshifter.
Right. Because she does have power. Mm-hmm. She could do a lot of stuff.
I mean, think about it, they've never been in the same scene together.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking.
And even in the first episode, like when he was there, I mean, she would all of a sudden show up. Like spontaneously. And I think there was a scene in this episode too where she walked to the car and then he walked out or something like that?
Yes.
So it's like the shapeshifter.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because she walks in later on into a house and then comes out and beats the shit out of the two guys that are following her that Lancaster sent out.
That's what it was.
And he's like,
she's totally
she doesn't like to be followed. She doesn't like to be tailed. Kicks the shit out of him.
That's right.
But we're shown here now that Montrose, Letty, Hippolyta, Tick, and the daughter are going to go to Boston to the vault of
in the museum
for Braithwaites. Montrose has a friend there who can help them to go into the vault or whatever because they know the vault's there, and they're going to stay after hours to like go into this vault or whatever, which is interesting. And then their friend, they're like, what the fuck? Why is Hippolyta and her daughter coming along? And he's like, it's her car. It's Willie.
Right.
I can't just tell her that I'm going to take the car.
Right.
So she goes along, and then Tree, this newer character who we saw in last episode, who was trying to hit on Letty and also likes Letty, he comes in, they go to the museum, and he's like, well, did I ever tell you why my name is Tree? And she's like, why? And he's like, well, because most men have 2 legs. I have Tree.
It's kind of funny.
It's stupid.
It's so stupid.
That's like that's an old ass fucking dick joke from like, from the days 50s? Of old. So I'm not at fault here for bringing up dick jokes in the podcast. But anyway, it doesn't go over well with Letty. She's not amused by it in the least. Then Ruby is in the city trying to get a job. They show her trying to get a job, and she pretending she's going to buy clothes because she's got nice clothes now. And she goes to have purpose to get a job at this store.
Right.
But someone's already hired.
She was holding an envelope, and I thought maybe she was going to apply again.
It is.
Right?
Yeah, but she was pretending...
Yeah, to shop. Yeah.
Because there was one girl of color already working there.
Right. So she got kind of disappointed.
Right, because back then they really were like, well, we let a black person work here, so we're good.
Right.
That's how it was. And that in a way also throws affirmative action, and nowadays it's surprising that we even need a law to say that.
I know.
You know what I mean? Like, that's the kind of thing. And I think this is, I don't know if they intentionally did this for the affirmative action thing, but it's kind of it's the breadcrumb trail that goes all the way back to back then where they were trying to pretend that they were being inclusive or whatever. Then we get Hippolyta and her daughter who are laying under the planetarium. They're at some museum and they're checking out the stars and everything like that. And she tells her daughter that she had named a comet, which is what I was talking about in last episode, which I was wrong, by the way. I misspoke. I said Mars.
Oh.
It was Pluto in the book. She named the comet in this show. So it's completely different, but she did name the comet in this, and some white woman beat her to the...
Because of telegraphs.
Yeah, but I think this was the Pluto one was the same thing. They were going to name what the name was.
Right.
So...
outer space.
Then her daughter's like,
out there.
My mom named the comet!
Right. That was cool.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of cool. Tree also... while they're all in the museum, they go back and forth between all these different characters and stuff. Tree kind of alludes to that, compounds the fact that Montrose knows more than he's sharing. And he's like, oh yeah, he was ball buddy with Sammy. And then Montrose comes back after talking to the guard. He's like, it's all set up. He's like, how do you know him? He's like, a friend.
The bar.
From the bar.
Yeah, the bar.
It's like, no, there's something going on. Yeah. I don't know why they're pushing that so hard, but I guess it makes sense by the end of the episode.
Yeah, there's probably this whole underground thing going on.
Well, because before they even go to the museum, and what makes them go to the museum is that Montrose realizes that he's going to go anyway.
Right.
And get himself into trouble.
Right. So he needs to be there.
So he's like, at least I'll be there. Now, this is where we get the Indiana Jones light thing bouncing off the walls at night, and it goes
marks
through
the spot.
Yeah, and then he moves the thumb of the statue or some shit, and
the fang of the
is that what it was?
Alligator.
Whatever.
Yeah, I thought it was cool.
Yeah, they open up the door, and then they descend down and through this hole, and on the ceiling there's writing from the journey to the center of the earth that he kind of brings up. But yeah, it's a very Indiana Jones kind of thing.
Totally.
Especially when they get to the plank.
Right, the bridge.
The bridge, which you mentioned, the Holy Grail.
Right, and then there's
Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, is that what it was?
Last Crusade.
Yeah,
well, really, the whole thing was all the Indiana Jones movies.
Pretty much, yeah.
But yeah, that
and
plank
Goonies, which we'll get to in a minute.
Right. But yeah, they go down the bridge plank thingy, and then it's booby trapped. It has a sliding blade, so they have to go through that, and then they have to. It starts fading away, so then they got to figure out the code, and then Montrose knows the code. Don't know how. How did he know the code to get in the door?
There was like 3 tunnels that they went that they could choose from, and they have this like argument about. And Montrose, of course, knows so much. He's also taken pride in it in some way. Mm-hmm. And he's like, well, I heard da-da-da-da-da. And she's like, well, the brochure says 1810. And he was like, that's when they redid it. And he was like, oh, maybe you're right, because the Sons of Adam didn't create until 1813. And then they cut back to Ruby. She's singing at the bar without her band, by herself, down on her luck. She didn't get the job she wanted. She just wanted some normalcy. Even though she's got money, she's not happy. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Even though that, things are looking up for her, she wanted to get that job. No one's listening to her at the singing place. And then William's at the end of the bar buying her a shot. She's like, I can't afford that. And he's like, well, Mr. blah, blah, blah.
Blue Eyes.
Yeah, Mr. Blue Eyes down there at the end of the bar bought you this. She's like, you're just trying to fuck. Which William Christina definitely does. He rails her at his house on the stairs or something. Was it her house? I don't
think it was her house, because there's no way she would have been able to enter the house.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, so I was thinking about that. So I don't know if
where they were
at like a hotel.
It looked like a big house.
Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, that was a pretty intense little
they banged
fuck scene. But yeah, I don't know what the intention of that is, but
they needed to tell Ruby and Hippolyta what was going on,
right?
So these other evil people could come and easily manipulate them,
right,
to get what they want out of them through.
Because I remember you saying that. You should have told her.
I was like, you should have fucking told her.
Should have let her in.
Yeah, well, she's living in your house.
That's Tick and Montrose that are the ones that are doing that.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there's even an argument when they're in the tunnels where they find the elevator that leads back to their house, and they're like, wait, how the fuck is there an elevator to our house that's in Chicago?
Boston, yeah.
And we're in Boston. And like, but it's magic,
it's fucking other dimension, bitch.
Right. They're able to travel in this thing.
Past the threshold in the museum.
Right.
Who knows where the fuck you are.
But he's like, you guys, Tick's like, you guys get out of here. I don't want you to get hurt. And she's like, no. She's like, he got kidnapped. I died.
Right.
We're in this together. Yeah. Stop your bullshit, chivalry bullshit.
Right.
We're going to fucking figure this out because there's no way out. But yeah, they find the long plank that they get on, which is totally a throwback to the Last Crusade, which is the Indiana Jones movie with Sean Connery, which we enjoyed watching recently.
Yeah, we did.
It was really good.
Yeah.
But it totally is. And I was like, fuck that plank. They're like talking about testing it out, see if it's strong enough. I'm like, fuck that shit. It's like a half a mile long. Like that shit's going to snap in the middle with any weight.
Well, it's magical.
I know.
So,
we find that out later.
It's a magical plank.
As the boards start to disintegrate, but it's still floating. They make it to the other side, barely. After fucking Montrose jumps to the plank that's like dissolving, and then they barely make it in through the thing where the door.
You need a code to get in. Of course, if Montrose knows the code, how the fuck did Montrose know the code?
They did that too quick because I didn't really put 2 and 2 and 1 and everything together. Like it just seemed like it was just kind of like, let's just get by.
Yeah, yeah.
It was
fast. Well, he said like hit Eve, hit Adam, like something like that. So I'm guessing it was pictures of them,
right?
Like a few, and then you You got to push him in.
But I did catch one thing that when Montrose jumps through, there was a funny moment that he had. And he was like, God damn, I'm like fucking Jesse Owens. Or something like that. And Letty even laughs. It's a little bit of levity from Letty. For Letty. But yeah, he said something about Jesse Owens, and a couple of the people I saw wrote about this.
Who was Jesse Owens? He was an athlete?
Yeah, he was an Olympic gold medal champion.
Oh.
He had won many. I think one of the biggest ones that he won was in 1936 for the Summer Olympics in Berlin.
Wow.
Which he won 4 gold medals, 100 meters, long jump, 200 meters, and the 4x100 meter relay. He was the most successful athlete at the games. And as a black man, was single-handedly credited with crushing Hitler's myth of Aryan supremacy.
Oh, wow.
And that's even though he did that, he wasn't even invited to the White House to shake hands with the president. Isn't that crazy?
And he did that, like for America. It's just like that. And
they
like
just
all
weren't
the troops
ready.
And all the troops who fought in all the wars.
Right.
Like, and
it's like, how much do you have to prove yourself?
Yeah. Like, what the fuck else do you...
Anyway, so I thought that was an interesting little tidbit.
Cool that
it's not really prevalent to the story, but it's interesting nonetheless. Right. We know that the water's rising, so when they get over there, it's like at their feet, and then it starts coming up, and Tick is like, we got like an hour before the water goes up, and we're going to drown. Tick and the gang are really flooded. It seems quick because this is where they bounce back and forth with Ruby and William fucking and shit during this whole time. They find a door with an arm in it, which is a really cool shot you mentioned.
Yeah, it was. It was because it was half water. It was obviously an underwater camera and then half it showed the level of the water. I thought it was a really cool shot.
Right. And it was funny because they were like, that's an arm. They pull it out, and the only reason that the guy lost his arm is because he wasn't a blood descendant of Titus.
Right.
Which he sticks his hand in, it cuts him, the blood goes over top, confirms he's a descendant.
Boom, open.
Boom, it opens. The drop. There's like a hatch in the ceiling, and this is the Goonies part. Mm-hmm. This is totally Goonies part. They go, they find One-Eyed Willie's treasure.
And it's totally a ship, which we didn't even realize until...
I said it was a ship right away.
Oh, well, you said, it looks like a ship. And I was like, it does look like a ship. That's weird. And then later on we find out,
that's because I play Sea of Thieves. I know all about the windows in the back.
Is that a video game? What is that?
Yeah, but it doesn't make any sense, though, that like they go up through the floor and the water's on there, but they could be traveling dimensions and who knows. But there's this sunken ship, a bunch of Native Americans, or I don't know if they're Americans, but... No,
they were other dimensional people.
Really? Well, you did a little bit of research on this because they run into One-Eyed Willie, who's in the back, which it isn't One-Eyed Willie, of course, and it's Yahim. Mm-hmm. Yahima, some people say. You did the research.
Yahima? We might be pronouncing that right. Yeah. Wrong.
They say Yahim in the movie, in the show.
Oh, then that's how it's said. And it actually is a tribe in eastern Washington. It is a Native American two-spirited spirit.
Which is hermaphroditic.
Of two, male and female spirit.
Which they show the genitalia.
Right.
There's like the dick and the ball over on the right and the vagina to the left. Yeah.
What? What was that? What?
I know.
What? Rewind it again. What?
Well, and they're totally respectful about it. She just like...
Right.
She snaps into
her form.
She explains. She speaks in another language that apparently Tick can understand only because he is a descendant. Mm-hmm. Why he understands that, they never really address that why. But
it's like you said, he's a descendant. It doesn't need to go into detail.
It's magic.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you believe in magic?
They were in a museum and now they're on a ship. I mean, come on.
Right.
Does this really need to be explained?
She's like, I'm not going to help you guys. I promised that I wouldn't. I was banished here by Titus, who I trusted, and he tricked me and let all my people die. She just basically wants to pay her penance. Mm-hmm. So Montrose is like, fuck that. I'm taking the scroll. And that's when the ship falls apart and water starts rushing in. She comes with them. Yahim comes with them. They escape to the elevator. It wasn't really that tense for me because I could see the water level.
Right.
The camera shots that they were using, you could see there was air above.
Yeah. In the elevator, yeah.
Well, not the elevator. When she was swimming to get the scroll.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It was so tense, this episode, though, up, like, until that point. It was so tense and suspenseful. I thought I could feel it. Like, yeah, when it got to that point, I was just kind of like, really? Does the scrolls really need to, go away to make a point that, thank God she was there to rescue them?
They're trying to get the pages. The pages are very important. So they go back, they escape through the elevator, and Tick and Letty kiss, and all of a sudden, Yahim's like screeching, and everybody's like, what the fuck? And Tick just back
attacks her,
knocks her the fuck out, and Montrose catches her. It's like he's like, I was trying to kiss. But she can't speak after that because I guess there was a spell on her. If she ever left, she wouldn't be able to speak, but only in her language.
Right.
So Tick's like, hey, let's teach her English. You teach her English, Montrose. And they have this bond, this like moment where everybody's like, your dad would be very proud of you. I'm proud of you, and your dad would be proud of you, Tick. It's all like, oh, wow, Montrose is really coming around. Like, he may be the father and Tick doesn't know that yet. And, it's just like, oh, Montrose isn't that bad of a guy. He's just looking out for his son or whatever it is. That's why he's been so, crazy with everything. And Tick is like really kind of moved by it in some way. Montrose goes right in there. You're like, oh, maybe he's not such a bad guy after all. And then he's like, sorry. Cuts fucking Yahim's fucking throat right then and there. And it's like, holy shit.
It's like, well, she had to die for some reason.
And that's why
he knows.
There's something more than just putting people's lives at risks there in that book that he knows. Some people were like, was it even him? And I'm like, no, I think it's him. But what is he going to tell to them?
Right.
Like, obviously it's to protect them, but there's obviously more at stake here if you're cutting people's throats. Why?
Yeah.
Because if he taught her English and she told him the secrets of how to read the scrolls or whatever, then what would that unleash?
Maybe George had told him to do it, or maybe he read it in the book.
I don't know. It's weird. It's interesting. I don't know where it's going to go necessarily. Some people are saying that, maybe these pages would have brought George back and like he could be brought back to life and that'll come back later.
I hope so.
I hope so too, because I think that would mix it up. Because right now we're kind of in limbo with like the book, but I think he will come back. I'm fairly certain.
I hope so.
Maybe it'll be like the episode end or
in another dimension when they go back,
Who knows? Yeah. So what do you think? Are you still on board with this show after this?
Yeah, I am.
I mean, I definitely want to see where it goes, but I am. It's a lot going on. Not as anticipating of this show as much as I am enjoying studying it. It's more interesting for me to study it. It makes the show better for me by studying it than if I were just to watch it.
Right.
So hopefully that comes through to you guys, even if you absolutely love it, which I do like the show a lot. It's just teetering around that 7, like where it's like, I like it, but I don't know where it's going. Is it really going to pan out? Like, what's going on? Is it splotchy? It feels a little splotchy at times. Like there's a lot of different sub characters going on, which, it's an HBO show. So we know that they like doing that. So right. I don't know. What do you guys think? I would love to hear what you guys think. Did you know some of these things that we pointed out? Do you see some of the comparisons? It seems like these last 2 episodes haven't been as deep about or intentional with some of the things that they do in there. And it's kind of building its own story now based off of some historical stuff, obviously, but it's kind of going its own way. Do you think?
Yeah, I think so.
Curious to see where episode 5 is. Hopefully they unleash the episode again early like they did this week where it was like Friday was out.
Yeah, it was out on Friday on HBO Max.
Right, gives us a little bit of extra time to like kind of like check it out.
Yeah.
But what do you guys think? Are you still on board? Let us know in the comment section down below. Other than that, we really do appreciate you guys coming by each week. We got more videos coming out. We're going to do some reviews. I got a video haul that we're going to be doing here tomorrow. So tune in for that on YouTube. But thanks for coming by. And as always,
long void.